The Quarantine Declaration. The grand amphitheater of the Galactic Conclave shimmered with an ethereal glow as representatives from over 300 sentient species filled the curved benches that rose up like a wave frozen in time. The chamber had been designed by the ancient gyral architects to inspire awe and remind each delegate of their insignificance in the face of galactic unity. Commander Elena Santos of Earth's diplomatic corps stood at the center of the floor, her back straight and chin raised despite the crushing pressure of thousands of alien eyes watching her every move. Representatives of humanity, the conclave speaker said, their voice resonating through the chamber without the need for amplification. The Azrathi were known for their vocal capabilities, among other things. We have deliberated on your petition for full membership in the Galactic Conclave for precisely one standard revolution. Our decision is final. Elena exchanged glances with Dr. Marcus Chen and Ambassador Quamosai, who stood beside her. They had spent years preparing for this moment, learning alien customs, navigating complex diplomatic waters, and showcasing humanity's achievements. Earth had unified under a single government, eliminated poverty, and begun healing its damaged ecosystems. They had met every published criterion for membership. The petition is denied. The speaker continued, their 6 eyes blinking in sequence. Furthermore, by unanimous vote of the Elder Council, the Sol system is hereby placed under indefinite quarantine. Gasps erupted from the human observers in the upper galleries. Elena felt a cold wave wash over her, but maintained her composure. On what grounds? She asked, her voice calm and measured despite the hammering of her heart. The speaker gestured with a slender limb, and a holographic display appeared above the chamber floor. It showed scenes from human history, wars, environmental destruction, and technological advancement at an alarming rate. Your species displays aberrant development patterns. You evolved from predators, yet refuse to embrace the stability that comes with accepting a natural hierarchy. You adapt too quickly. You solve problems in unconventional ways that disrupt established paradigms. Dr. Chen stepped forward. Those very traits enabled us to overcome our violent past and unite our world. We've achieved peace among our people. For less than 2 centuries, interrupted a Volbraxian delegate, their crystalline form glittering with disapproval. My species has known internal harmony for 50,000 years. Your peace is but the blink of an eye. The conclave exists to maintain galactic stability. The speaker continued, your species represents an unacceptable level of unpredictability. The quarantine will be enforced by automated beacons at the boundaries of your solar system. Any vessel attempting to cross this boundary will be immediately destroyed. Ambassador Osai raised his hand, the traditional gesture requesting additional speaking time. How long will this quarantine last? The speaker's mouthparts twitched in what Elena recognized as the Azrathi equivalent of a condescending smile. Until your species demonstrates it has evolved beyond its dangerous tendencies or becomes extinct, whichever comes first. Elena recognized the finality in the speaker's tone. There would be no appeal, no reconsideration. The conclave had judged humanity and found them wanting. You will be permitted to return to Earth with your current vessel, the speaker said. The quarantine beacons are already being positioned. This session is concluded. As they walked back to their ship, surrounded by security drones to ensure they didn't deviate from their assigned path, Elena noticed how the alien delegates looked at them, not with hatred, but with fear. They feared what humans might become if allowed to spread among the stars. Once aboard their vessel, the Phoenix, Ambassador Osai slammed his fist against the bulkhead. Centuries of working toward this moment, all for nothing. Dr. Chen collapsed into a chair, his face ashen. What will we tell Earth? Billions expect us to bring back membership, not exile. But Elena was quiet, staring out the viewport at the massive conclave station, with its thousands of ships coming and going freely, ships that would never visit Earth, worlds that humans would never see. Commander, Dr. Chen's voice pulled her from her thoughts. I'm thinking the conclave just made a catastrophic mistake, she said, her voice steel-edged but calm. Obviously, Ambassador Osei snapped. They're afraid of us for no reason. Elena shook her head. No, their mistake wasn't judging us too harshly. Their mistake was leaving us with our knowledge and technology. She moved to the navigation console and pulled up a star chart of the Sol system. They've locked us in a cage, but they've given us time. Time for what? Dr. Chen asked. To build something better than their conclave. To prove them wrong. 25 years passed since humanity learned of its cosmic rejection. Earth's governments had initially fallen into panic and despair when the diplomatic mission returned with news of the quarantine. But that despair had quickly transformed into determination. Dr. Isabel Cato wiped sweat from her brow as she made final adjustments to the quantum array in the hidden facility beneath Titan's icy surface. At 52, she had spent half her life working on this project, creating a propulsion system that could slip through the fabric of space without triggering the Conclave's detection systems. Dr. Cato, the final calibrations are complete, announced her assistant, Leo Wright, a brilliant young physicist with a talent for quantum mechanics. Run the simulation again, Isabel said, unwilling to take chances with humanity's future. The holographic display showed a test probe navigating the simulated quarantine boundary. Previous propulsion technologies created ripples in spacetime that the Conclave's beacons were designed to detect. But this system was different. It didn't push against space like conventional drives. It slipped between the folds of reality, leaving barely a trace. Look at that, Leo whispered as the simulation completed. Completely undetected. Isabel allowed herself a small smile. Informed Director Santos. Tell her Phantom Drive is ready for physical testing. In another section of the facility, Director Elena Santos reviewed reports from across the solar system. After returning from the Conclave, she had been appointed to lead the Phoenix Initiative, humanity's coordinated response to the quarantine. At 63, her hair had gone completely silver, but her eyes remained sharp and determined. A holographic notification appeared before her. Phantom Drive was ready. Finally, she opened a secure channel to Earth's unified command. Madam President, Phase 1 is complete. We're ready to begin physical testing of the Phantom Drive. President Amara Wilson's hologram flickered to life. Excellent news, Director. And the colony ship. The Odyssey is nearly complete. Construction crews have maintained complete radio silence as instructed. All components were manufactured under innocent-seeming projects. The Conclave monitors have no idea we're building a vessel capable of carrying 10,000 colonists. And the candidates. Selected and trained. They understand they may never return to Earth. They're prepared to build a new home beyond the quarantine. President Wilson nodded solemnly. They're brave souls. When humanity eventually breaks free from this prison, they'll be remembered as our pioneers. Elena hesitated before asking her next question. And Project Oracle? The president's expression hardened. Our monitoring systems have intercepted and decoded enough Conclave communications to compile a database of unoccupied habitable worlds. Worlds the Conclave has surveyed, but not yet colonized. The first target has been selected. A planet in the Terendi sector, far from major Conclave traffic routes. We're calling it Novaterra. How long until the Odyssey is ready to launch? 3 months, Elena replied. We'll need to run full-scale tests of the Phantom Drive first. Director Santos, the president leaned forward, her expression intense. What we're planning violates the quarantine. If the Conclave discovers our intentions, they might take more drastic action against Earth. Elena nodded grimly. I'm aware of the risks, Madam President, but remaining passive while they wait for us to either evolve into something they approve of or die out isn't an option. Humanity doesn't belong in a cage. I agree. Proceed with the tests. Keep me informed. After the president's hologram faded, Elena opened a drawer in her desk and removed a small holographic projector. It displayed an image of the Conclave amphitheater from 25 years ago, captured moments after the quarantine announcement. She studied the alien faces, all those species who had judged humanity unworthy of joining their community. "You think you've contained us," she whispered to the frozen image. "You have no idea what's coming." 2 months later, Elena stood in the observation room overlooking the massive construction bay where the Odyssey waited. The colony ship was a marvel of human engineering, nearly a kilometer long, designed to be completely self-sufficient, with habitation rings, hydroponic farms, and manufacturing facilities. Most of its passengers would travel in cryosleep, while a rotating crew maintained the ship during its journey to Nova Terra. Captain Sanjay Mehta joined her at the viewport. At 45, he had been selected to command humanity's first extrasolar colony mission. His calm demeanor and strategic mind made him ideal for the challenges ahead. "She's magnificent," Sanjay said, gazing at the ship. "Hard to believe we built her in secret." "The Conclave underestimated our determination," Elena replied. "They thought the quarantine would force us to look inward, to focus on our own system. Instead, we've been preparing to leap beyond their barriers." "The Phantom Drive testing was successful." Elena nodded. 3 unmanned probes have already slipped past the quarantine beacons. No alarms, no response from the Conclave. As far as they know, humanity is still safely contained. Sanjay's expression grew serious. "And once we're out there, what then?" "Then we build. We establish Nova Terra as our first foothold beyond the quarantine. We prove that humanity doesn't need the Conclave's approval to thrive among the stars." She turned to face him directly. "And perhaps in time, we'll find others like us. Species the Conclave deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous for their perfect galactic order." "You think there are others?" Elena smiled grimly. "The Conclave has existed for thousands of years. I doubt we're the first species they've tried to contain or control. Find them, Captain. Build alliances. Show the galaxy a different path, one based on cooperation rather than control." A week later, Elena stood in the command center as final preparations for the Odyssey's launch were completed. The massive ship would depart from Titan, using the moon's bulk to shield it from Earth-facing Conclave monitors until the Phantom Drive could be engaged. "All systems are green," reported Leo Wright, now serving as the mission's chief engineer. "Phantom Drive is primed and ready." "Cryopods are secure," added Dr. Maya Patel, the mission's chief medical officer. "All colonists are stable." Elena opened a channel to the bridge. "Captain Mehta, the Phoenix Initiative has been 25 years in the making. You carry with you the hopes of Earth and the future of humanity beyond the quarantine. Is the Odyssey ready to make history?" Sanjay's voice came back calm and confident. "We're ready, Director. The crew understands the significance of our mission. We won't let Earth down." "Then you have clearance to depart. Godspeed, Odyssey." On the main view screen, Elena watched as the massive ship glided silently out of its construction bay. It moved with surprising grace for something of its size, maneuvering around Titan and positioning itself for the jump to Phantom Drive. Phantom Drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. Leo counted down. On the screen, the Odyssey seemed to ripple slightly, as if seen through heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then, without flash or fanfare, it simply vanished, slipping between the folds of space-time, undetectable to the Conclave's sensors. Elena released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Phase 2 of the Phoenix Initiative had begun. Humanity had taken its first step beyond the quarantine, not with a bang, but with a whisper. The Conclave would never see them coming. As the control room erupted in muted celebration, Elena thought about the Conclave's judgment from 25 years ago. They had called humans unpredictable, dangerous, too quick to adapt. They had meant these as warnings, as reasons to fear and contain humanity. They were about to learn just how right they had been. The Silent Revolution. 75 years had passed since the Odyssey slipped past the quarantine beacons. What had begun as a single colony ship had blossomed into a network of human settlements across 12 star systems, all connected by quantum communication and Phantom Drive technology that remained invisible to Conclave detection. Admiral Lyra Meta stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, the hidden headquarters of what Earth now called the Free Systems Alliance. At 48, Lyra had never seen Earth except in historical records. Born on Novaterra, she was a third-generation colonist and the granddaughter of Captain Sanjay Mehta, who had commanded humanity's first exodus. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked a voice behind her. Lyra turned to see Ambassador Kai Chen approach. The diplomatic corps uniform fit him well, its deep blue contrasting with the silver insignia that marked him as the representative of Earth. "I never tire of this view," Lyra agreed, looking back at the sprawling space station nestled within the rings of a gas giant. The station's design was unlike anything the Conclave would recognize, grown as much as built, using biotechnology developed on Novaterra that merged living systems with mechanical components. "The Council is assembling," Kai said. "They're waiting for you." Lyra nodded and followed him through corridors that curved organically, lined with bioluminescent panels that responded to their presence. Nexus Station housed representatives from all 12 human worlds, as well as delegates from 9 non-conclave species they had encountered during their expansion. The council chamber was designed to accommodate beings with vastly different physiological needs. Sectors with various atmospheric conditions, gravity settings, and temperature zones allowed everyone to participate comfortably without environmental suits. As Lyra entered, conversations in multiple languages fell silent. Council Chair Dr. Imani Wright, a descendant of Leo Wright, who had helped develop the original Phantom Drive, called the session to order. At 90, with the benefit of advanced longevity treatments, she remained sharp and commanding. "Admiral Mehta has returned from the reconnaissance mission to Conclave space," Dr. Wright announced. "Admiral, please share your findings." Lyra stepped onto the central platform, and a holographic display materialized around her. As instructed by the Council, the Shadow Seeker conducted a stealth survey of major Conclave worlds and installations. The display showed images of massive ring-shaped space stations, planetary cities with towering spires, and fleets of ships with distinctive designs. The quarantine around Earth remains in place, exactly as it was established a century ago. The Conclave appears to have written humanity off as a contained problem. She gestured, and the display shifted to show statistical analyses. "However, we've detected concerning patterns in Conclave expansion. They're moving into sectors near several of our outlying colonies, not because they're aware of our presence, but simply following their standard colonization protocols." "How close are they to discovering us?" asked Councillor Darian Voss of Libertas, the third human colony world. "If they maintain their current expansion rate, they'll survey the Ariane system within 15 years. While our settlements and technology are designed to be undetectable to standard Conclave sensors, a full planetary survey would likely reveal human presence." The council chamber filled with murmured conversations as representatives absorbed this information. "There's more," Lyra continued, and the room quieted again. "During our reconnaissance, we made contact with the Ryaki." The holographic display changed to show a species with crystalline exoskeletons that caught and refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. The Ryaki were quarantined by the Conclave 300 years ago for reasons similar to humanity, deemed too unpredictable, too innovative. They've developed technology in isolation, including crystalline computing systems far more advanced than Conclave equivalents. They're interested in an alliance. Tavri, the representative of the Novan, the first non-human species to join the alliance, raised a tentacle. The translator converted their vibrations into human speech. "How did the Ryaki detect your ship if it uses phantom technology?" "They didn't," Lyra replied. "We detected them. Their world is surrounded by a crystalline defense system that bends light around their entire solar system, essentially making it invisible. We only found them because we were using experimental quantum detection arrays specifically designed to locate anomalies the Conclave might be hiding." Dr. Wright leaned forward. "Are you suggesting there may be more quarantined species out there?" "I believe it's likely," Lyra confirmed. The Conclave has existed for thousands of years. Their pattern is clear. Species that don't conform to their standards of predictability and stability are isolated. The Ryaki shared records of rumors about other quarantined worlds. If we can locate them, we could build a coalition of the exiled. Kai Chen finished the thought. Species the Conclave deemed too dangerous for their perfect order. Precisely, Lyra said. Each with their own unique technologies and perspectives, all developed in isolation from Conclave influence. The council deliberated for hours, weighing the risks and possibilities. Eventually, Dr. Wright called for a vote. The motion to establish diplomatic relations with the Ryaki and authorize missions to locate other potentially quarantined species passes, she announced after the votes were tallied. Admiral Meta, Ambassador Chen, you will lead this initiative. As the meeting concluded, Kai approached Lyra. Your grandmother would be proud, he said quietly. Elena Santos too. They envisioned humanity finding its own path among the stars. They couldn't have imagined we'd be leading a coalition of exiles. The Conclave believes harmony comes from conformity. Lyra replied, we're building something different. Strength through diversity, innovation through freedom. 5 years later, Lyra stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Defiance, watching as ships from 7 different species maneuvered in formation. The combined fleet represented the newly formed Covenant of Free Worlds, species that had been quarantined, overlooked, or had fled Conclave dominance. Fleet reports ready. Admiral, announced her first officer, Commander Theo Wright. The ships were gathered at the edge of the Ariadne system. Conclave survey vessels had been detected approaching, decades ahead of their projected schedule. The Covenant faced a critical choice: remain hidden and abandon the human settlement on Ariadne, or reveal themselves and challenge the Conclave directly. They had chosen the latter. Open a channel to all Covenant vessels, Lyra ordered. When the communications officer nodded, she addressed the fleet. For generations, the Galactic Conclave has appointed itself the arbiter of which species deserve to walk among the stars. They quarantined humanity a century ago, believing we would either conform to their standards or wither away in isolation. They were wrong. She paused, looking at the tactical display showing the approaching Conclave ships, massive, powerful, but designed for a type of warfare the Covenant had moved beyond. Today, we end a century of hiding. Today, the Covenant of Free Worlds declares its existence to the galaxy. We do not seek conflict with the Conclave, but neither will we allow them to threaten our worlds or our way of life. Stand ready. Remember your training. Trust in each other. As she concluded, the sensors officer called out, Conclave vessels dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1. 5 Conclave ships materialized at the edge of the system, sleek, intimidating vessels that had inspired fear throughout the galaxy for millennia. They were survey ships, not warships, but still heavily armed. They're scanning the system, reported the sensor officer. They've detected Ariadne colony. As expected, Lyra said calmly, maintain position. Let them make the first move. Minutes stretched tensely as the Conclave ships continued their scans. Then, the communications officer straightened. They're hailing us, Admiral. Audio and visual. Put them through. The main view screen came to life, showing an Azrathi commander. Their 6 eyes widened in shock as they recognized the humans on the Defiance's bridge. This is Commander Vrel of the Galactic Conclave. You are in violation of Quarantine Directive 773A. Identify yourselves immediately. Lyra stepped forward. I am Admiral Lyra Meta of the Covenant of Free Worlds. This system and the planet Ariadne are under our protection. Your Quarantine Directive has no authority here. The Azrathi's eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of agitation. Humans were contained within the Sol system. Your presence here is impossible. Clearly not, Lyra replied with the hint of a smile. The Conclave underestimated humanity's determination and ingenuity. We've been beyond your quarantine for 75 years, building colonies and forging alliances with other species you dismissed or contained. The commander's mouthparts clicked rapidly as they consulted with someone off-screen. When they faced the camera again, their voice was cold. You will surrender your vessels and submit to Conclave authority. This unauthorized expansion cannot be permitted. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Lyra said. The Covenant includes not only humanity but also the Novan, the Ryaki, the Solari, the Viridian Collective, the Tauri Remnant, and the Sci-Fi Confederation. All species the Conclave has either quarantined or deemed unworthy of full recognition. Together, we represent over 30 star systems and billions of sentient beings. On cue, the Covenant fleet decloaked. Ships of various designs, some crystalline, others seemingly grown from living material, all incorporating technologies developed beyond Conclave influence. The Ezrathi commander couldn't hide their shock. This is impossible. Commander Vrel, Lyra continued, we have no desire for conflict with the Conclave. We propose recognition of Covenant space and mutual non-interference. We will not expand into claimed Conclave territories if you acknowledge our right to exist and develop without Conclave oversight. The Conclave does not negotiate with quarantine violators, the commander replied, though with noticeably less conviction. Stand down your vessels. Lyra sighed. As a show of good faith, I'm transmitting data on our development over the past century and our integration of multiple species into a cooperative alliance. I suggest you forward this to the Conclave elders for review before making any hasty decisions. She nodded to her communications officer, who sent the prepared package, carefully edited to reveal enough to impress, but not enough to compromise Covenant security. You have one standard cycle to withdraw from this system, Lyra concluded. After that, we will consider your presence an act of aggression. Defiance out. The screen went dark. Think they'll back down? Asked Commander Wright. They'll retreat to report to the Conclave elders, Lyra predicted. Their survey ships aren't equipped to challenge our fleet, and they know it. What happens next depends on how the elders react to learning their perfect quarantine system failed a century ago. 24 hours later, the Conclave vessels departed the system without further communication. As Lyra had predicted, they retreated to report their discovery to the Conclave hierarchy. 6 months passed before the Conclave responded officially, not with an attack fleet as many had feared, but with a diplomatic delegation requesting a meeting at neutral coordinates. The Conclave, it seemed, had recognized that the situation called for negotiation rather than force. As Lyra prepared for the historic first meeting between the Covenant and the Conclave, she reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. The quarantine had been meant to contain and ultimately extinguish humanity's influence on the galaxy. Instead, it had forced humans to develop in ways the Conclave could never have predicted, to build alliances with other outcasts, to create technologies beyond Conclave understanding, and to forge a new path among the stars. The Conclave had exiled humanity, believing isolation would lead to stagnation or extinction. Instead, that exile had become the foundation of humanity's greatest strength. Free from Conclave restrictions, humans and their allies had built something the rigid hierarchies of the Conclave could barely comprehend. A civilization based on cooperation rather than control, diversity rather than conformity, innovation rather than stability. As her shuttle approached the meeting coordinates, Lyra smiled at the irony. The Conclave had feared humanity's unpredictability and adaptability. Now those very traits had forced the mighty Conclave to the negotiating table. Humanity hadn't just survived exile. They had transformed it into the birthplace of a revolution that would forever change the galaxy. The end.